This is an extraordinary remedy to extraordinary circumstances that we've taken, along with the City of Lancaster and the mayor. When you're running a business, it comes with responsibilities, especially when you have a liquor license, as in this case. And when you're impacting public safety, then you're really going to get our attention, both the city and the county through the district attorney's office. And we've seen way more attention and incidents than we can tolerate anymore from this business. There's been damage to property, personal injury, fights, disturbances, drunks, drugs. There's been just about any crime you could have, you name it, over the past year and a half, a little bit more than that at this establishment. We've talked to them about it. The neighbors have been proactive, working along with the city police department. I'll credit Detective Brial and Captain Schweitzer for working with them. And we actually had a meeting with them the night before one of the city police officers was injured from another disturbance from this. We just can't take it anymore. And so we formed the collaborative effort with the mayor's office. I want to thank him publicly for that, and the solicitor's office for doing a great job putting this together. Getting this temporary injunction to stop the sales of liquor from this establishment. We're going to ask for a permanent injunction in the future, but today the main thing is we just won't tolerate it anymore. It's a matter of public safety. It's no longer, this isn't just about selling alcohol and having a couple people, minor disturbance. We now have public safety that's a threat to the residents. It's damaging the community, and now we have injured police officers, and we will not allow any more to take place as long as there's a legal means to stop it, and we've taken this extraordinary remedy today. So again, I want to credit the Lancaster City Police Department for taking the lead on this. I want to thank the residents who were from that community, who endured hardship and all these disturbances but couldn't take it anymore, and were willing to come forward, work with the police department and us so we can get here today. And without their cooperation, we wouldn't be here. So they had the courage to stand up, and it's making a difference. And you can see that difference, and it'll be a difference this weekend. We pushed hard to make sure that this was done so the city of Lancaster didn't have to endure another weekend of this. It's just intolerable. So I want to credit the mayor and, again, the solicitor's office, First Assistant Chris Larson, who helped work on this. This was a partnership. No one's taking the lead. We all have a common purpose, and we've been united, and we have a good result today, and we're going to move forward. So I'll turn it over to the mayor.
Well, I'd also like to thank the District Attorney's Office in cooperating with both my office and the City Police Department in abating this nuisance. And that's what basically was found today, at least preliminarily, that the operation of this bar was being done in such a manner that it constituted a nuisance. Would like the word to go out to people that with a license and a liquor license come certain responsibilities, and that is not only to control the crowd in the bar but also to control the crowd outside. We've had numerous complaints both from residents and business people concerning the occurrences around here, and quite frankly it was becoming intolerable for them. When it did, the district attorney and I talked, and we felt it was appropriate at that point to take the action which has been taken today. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for the owner of the license, the owner of the restaurant. It's also even more unfortunate for the police officer that was injured and the residents that have to put up with this type of behavior. So I hope that the word goes out that we like entertainment, we like an entertainment district, we like people who enjoy themselves, but they have to do it with some propriety, and that was not occurring here. We will not tolerate it, and unfortunately it requires us to take steps like this to terminate it. So again, I'd like to thank the District Attorney's Office, and again thank our police department for the work that they've done in getting the information together. As you look at the affidavit that's attached to the complaint, that isn't everything, and the fact that there is so much there sort of tells you how serious a problem this has become. The final episode was March 18th, which was the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back, with a fight out on Queen Street blocking the street, a police officer injured, the crowd not dispersing, and the potential for serious injury to people. So, you know, as you look at the affidavit, think that that was just the final culmination of the whole thing. Though we had been looking at it and people had been meeting and discussing what to do in that situation. In fact, I think the district attorney and police chief the night before, I think, the 16th, the 17th, there was a meeting with the residents. So again, it's unfortunate that it had to get to this state, but we want to let the people know that not only will we protect that interest, but also throughout the city, if these kind of things arise, we have every intention of taking action like this to minimize this type of behavior in the future. That's all I have.
Can we take a question?
Sure.
Can you put this into context? I mean, when you see a bar establishment like this with 36 times police have visited according to the document in the past 7 months, just put that in context within, historical reference in Lancaster. Is this the worst? Is it one of the worst? I mean, how bad really is this?
Well, I don't know if I'd call it the worst, because I'm not sure historically that it is the worst. It's certainly, and I can say without any question, it's certainly one of the worst records, and it's certainly currently one of the worst. There are other bars in the city of Lancaster which we've looked at and which we've worked with the liquor control enforcement people to be punitive with them and close them. We're looking at other bars right now for aberrant behavior inside and outside the bar. This place was probably the worst. Chief, you'd have to. Sure. It was the worst currently in the city. One of the things that wasn't said at the hearing, it closed Queen Street. Well, Queen Street, for those of us who live in Lancaster, is the main street going north in the city. To close one of the major streets in the city with a fight out on the street, I consider that rather serious, to say the least. So, under the current standards, Detective Schweitzer, was there any bar that gets close to this with the number of complaints that we've
Not
had?
in terms of the number of incidents,
Yeah.
no. Some of them have had, shootings and stuff more frequently, but in terms of number of incidents, no.
So it's the worst right now.
Well, it speaks for itself. We're taking this action on this one. It speaks for itself
Yeah,
that we're
that's
taking
true.
this action
Yeah.
on this bar, and we're standing here today for this bar and not any other one. So you want to say worst or not, it's bad enough that we had to do this. I mean, there are other issues, there are other problems, but this is right now certainly the worst. And we've taken this joint step to deal with it.
Greg, you said you're seeking a permanent injunction.
Right.
So is the goal that Mr. Fotis and Gustos, that you don't want them to operate?
We can get under the Liquor Control Board if we satisfy the court according to the standards set in the Liquor Control or the Liquor Code. We can abate the use of a license for a year.
That's called permanent.
Oh,
Under the law, they refer to it as permanent. It's a year.
For a nuisance bar. So a temporary, a TRO is something that you do in an emergency situation. This is what was granted today. It's extraordinary relief. It's granted in an emergency situation where there's no adequate remedy at law. In other words, you can't sue and get money damages and whatnot. You ask for the court to remedy. Then there'll be a hearing on a preliminary injunction, which will require more proof, and possibly, very often at that time, it's a hearing on a permanent injunction. So there's 3 steps. Usually, or very often, the preliminary injunction and the permanent injunction, the hearing are one and the same. So this is just the initial step. It just means at this point they can't serve alcohol out of that bar.
And I think, PJ, it's important to make a distinction when you bring up, it's not personal. This isn't personal at all. We want businesses to come here. We want them to do well. But when you attract our attention to this degree through these, well, there's crimes, there's disturbances, then now we're involved in it. So it's not about putting him out of business. It's about protecting the public.
Now, you said you've dealt with cases in the past. Have there been any previous cases where you've worked with them before it got to this point and they've tried to improve it and help the situation out? Can you talk about that a little bit, if you had any instances?
Yeah, go ahead, Chief. Yeah.
I mean, just to make absolutely clear, the course of action at this particular establishment began in September of 2009. That's the beginning of the chain of events. During that time, there have been several discussions with members of the establishment and members of the police department and liquor control enforcement about ways to remedy their situation. So the police department doesn't just decide to pick a bar and get it closed down because of complaints. Our standard procedure with any bar or liquor license establishment in the city is when they look like they're getting out of hand, or maybe the management is having issues, patrons, whatever, we always try to give them the benefit of the doubt, meet with them, advise them of what the next course of action by us is going to be. And believe me, that is more than the case in this Gusto's. And the worst part of this, again, on a Wednesday night, we had a meeting with residents and business owners in that neighborhood, and just a little over 24 hours later, there's a large melee in the street where officers respond, the police sergeant takes a head injury, and thank God it could have been actually a lot worse, because literally cars that were traveling in that block got caught in the middle of it and couldn't go anywhere. So I can only begin to think, how frightened some citizen driving through Queen Street was that particular night. So, like District Attorney said, it couldn't be more crystal clear. We're not picking on any one particular bar. There's a series of events that occur, and a dialogue is open with this establishment and others in the city. Some chose to make corrections on their own. Others have, let it deteriorate to the point we're at now.
Who was the sergeant who was injured, and what is his or her?
Sergeant Mark Radmore. He had a minor head injury. He was struck in the melee, and by who? We're unknown, because literally the first 4 officers that responded were fighting a crowd of about 50 or 60.
Is he back on duty?
Yes, yes, he is. But that it's a police sergeant responding to a disturbance, and somebody's taking a swing.
For possible new businesses looking to maybe come into the city and open up an establishment, what are some steps they can do to prevent any?
Well,
Police yourself.
yeah, exactly.
Well,
There
yeah.
are several establishments in the city that we almost never get calls to, and that's not just because we're picking and choosing. We don't get calls because they've taken the steps to secure their business. And a misconception, whether it's intentional or not, some bar owners, their mantra is, well, that happened outside the bar, but you have a responsibility. If you're serving liquor to patrons that are clearly intoxicated and you're allowing them to continue to drink, and then you throw them out on the street intoxicated, or you throw them out when they're in the middle of a brawl, you have expectation to police your property inside and out. So the response we get from bars and clubs that usually become a problem are just that, well, that happened outside the club. But if the disturbance started inside the club, the liquor served inside the club, or the person enters the club visibly intoxicated, I mean, all of these are the bars that don't have those issues police themselves, like the mayor said.
Well, and we should say that the vast majority of bars and clubs in the city of Lancaster we have little or no contact with, and that includes establishments that cater to all age groups and all parts of the city. We have little or no contact with the vast majority.